Yo, Kingdom citizens, what's good? We're back, Kingdom Ox, all on social media, all the platforms, Kingdom Ox to check out. I have an amazing person today. I have a trailblazer in this space, man. Name is ringing bells right now. I see great things for her. She's amazing. She's always been good to the Track Stars community. Now she's going to be great to the Kingdom Ox community. And I'm just here with the one, the only, Vasi. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for that amazing introduction.
Yeah, yeah. I just see amazing stuff. The first time I met you was, of course, at our studio in Trackstar Studio, and it was amazing. It was dope. I enjoyed it so much, and yeah, I was like, yo, she's gonna be crazy. And then these records just started coming out, and I was just like, oh. And then now, like now, so sometimes people have people help them with writing and different things. And then now that I'm hearing that you're an amazing writer, so I'm like, you're gonna go far. You're gonna go far. You're gonna go
Thank
far.
you.
All
Thank you.
right. So just tell us your story growing up. And I know a lot of interviews start off like that, but I promise you it's gonna go somewhere that you're gonna like. So let's
Okay.
start off your story. Let's see how'd your story start? Where you from? How'd you get started? Everything. Just let's have a conversation.
Sure, yeah. So I was born in Fayetteville, North Carolina, originally from North Carolina. And I'm the youngest of three.
Okay.
And my siblings and I always used to sing together in the house. And we started singing in the house, and it kind of quickly transitioned over us to performing in musical theater productions together locally. And that was kind of my intro to performing. And I just fell in love with it. I was 7 when I first started performing in theater, and I kind of never stopped
Wow.
until I had to take a brief recess to kind of assess my life. But yeah, I've been performing since I was really really little, and kind of started songwriting pretty quickly after that too. I wrote my first song at 10 years old when I was backstage at the Lion King on Broadway. Actually, that's where I kind of decided that pursuing entertainment was more than a hobby. It was something that I wanted to do
Yeah.
for my life. So the Lord showed me pretty early on that this was the path that He had for me, and so yeah, that's where I got my start.
So okay, so like the Lion. Okay, before the Lion King, what were some plays that you were doing at 7 years old?
hmm
Like what
so
type of
my
plays?
Yeah. So my first show was actually The Wizard of Oz. I was a
Okay.
Munchkin. Yeah, and it's really funny. My first audition. I've always been a very serious, focused kid, and I took everything so seriously.
Yeah.
And so my first audition, I was so nervous about it. I broke out in hives,
Oh wow.
and everyone was like, "You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it." And I was like, "I have to do this. I have to do it." So yeah, that's my first audition, and the Wizard of Oz was my first show, and we ended up doing a bunch of other shows, Children of Eden, Best Christmas Pageant Ever, just I Beauty and the Beast. Like it's just so much. I did so many shows. So yeah, it was fun.
Do you feel like that locally helped you in preparing you for Broadway, or was it just something that you felt like, man, this is my chops, this is what I'm learning, this is part
Mhm.
of my tools that I'm gonna get better and better and better, and then eventually it got to Broadway, or do you feel like that was your preparation to Broadway?
Yeah, it was definitely great preparation. I grew up at the Cape Regional Theater in Fayetteville, and the artistic director and founder, she was really. It was a professional environment. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? There were high expectations of us, even the kids, and also just generally, like I said, like it was something that I always say you can't force people to do this stuff. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? And so it just has to kind of be in you. And so it was something from very early on that I just was like, okay, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I'm going to take it seriously. And I definitely used CFRT, Cape Regional Theater, as that training ground, I guess. And then pretty quickly, I ended up booking The Lion King. So I was 9 when I booked The Lion King.
mm,
And I didn't think that, when I was 7, like I'm going to be on Broadway, in a couple of
yeah,
years. But that just kind of how it turned out, and my background at the theater I grew up at really did prepare me for that in a great way.
Yeah, so like I always hear that you always see the theater kids in the movies, right? You always see the theater kids, and you see like, are they really like this in real life? Is theater kids like that in real life? Like from a theater kid, is that true what they show in the movies?
So there's a spectrum of
Okay.
theater kids, you know.
Okay.
I can say that, you know, anything in a movie is always going to be kind of the campiest version of an experience, you know what I'm saying? So you know, a lot of things that depict theater kids, there are those theater kids that exist, and then there are, you know, there's a range of being a theater kid. So
Yeah. Yeah. And then so now you're coming from a small town going to the Big Apple, New York City, like Gotham City, they call it now. Like what was that like? Was coming from a small town, was that like, what is this? Like, what was you at 9 years old going like? Did you know the big difference, or was it more like maybe, you know, like I'm oblivious to this because I'm so young, and my people and my parents are sheltering me? Did you feel that, or was you like, I went from a fish tank into like the ocean? You know what I'm saying?
yeah, no, I was not surprised at all. My mom is from New York.
Got
So
you. Okay.
I had been in New York from every single family, you know, trip or vacation we took in a school break was to New York. And so we had gone to see Broadway shows every time that we went to the city. And so it wasn't foreign to me at all. If anything, I felt like I really like found myself there, you know what I'm saying? And I really
Yeah.
just kind of leaned in, you know, and kind of went with the grind of it, you know. So it
Yeah.
was a really exciting time for sure.
So was like, when you got there, was that audition like easy to book, or was it like multiple like auditions for the Lion King, or was it just like, I got it immediately? God was faithful and I got it immediately. Which one
Yeah,
was it for you?
yeah, I would say kind of a mixture of both. So
Okay.
actually I auditioned in The Lion King. I did an open call. I didn't have an agent or anything. Like I waited in the long line with like 300 other girls that day in the hot summer. And you know, I went through the rounds of it. So you know, you had the initial audition, and then I think maybe like there were two other callbacks, but
Yeah.
I booked it on my first shot at it. So
Okay.
it definitely was one of those things that, you know, it was just kind of meant to be part of God's plan, and really set me on my path pretty early on.
Got you. And then doing the Lion King, was this at the height of when it first started, or was this like around like when it was like already started and things were happening with it, that people were getting so much attention to it that
Mhm,
like it kind of put you front street? You know what I mean? Like, was that like something that was like, man, wow, this is amazing? You know what I mean? Like,
mhm,
what's the process of a kid like at that age to go through a big Broadway production? Because I remember seeing the pictures. I ain't never get a chance to go, but
mhm.
I was even seeing the pictures, and I remember seeing all the stuff for it, and I was just like, man, this is amazing.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, The Lion King is a world of its own, you know.
Yeah,
It's always been an amazing, amazing phenomenon. And it's just such an amazing experience live.
yeah.
And so yeah, so when I was in it, it was around the 10-year anniversary of the show.
Okay.
And it was every single night, the audience was so excited to be there. People know the songs, you know, and you just felt the love coming from the crowd, you know. And for
Yeah,
me as a kid, you know, I just loved it. I think that I wasn't even conscious enough, like in my self yet, to even be kind of afraid of it at all. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? It was just kind of like, yeah, like this is life, like this is how it's supposed to be, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
And
yeah.
I really just loved it, every single second of it. And you know, I'll never forget just the feeling of the crowd from The Lion King, because it's such a beloved show and has been for so long and still is.
Got
So
you.
yeah.
Any funny Lion King stories? Any funny Lion King stories that you be able to tell to the viewing audience?
um The one thing that's coming to mind is the one time that I had to perform. I had strep throat.
Oh wow.
And I didn't have to perform, right? They didn't force me to, but my school, my classmates were coming to that show,
Oh
and
wow.
I, at like 10 years old, was like, no, I have to do it. Like my classmates are out there, I have to do it. So I like forced myself to perform with strep throat, and slept for the whole second half of the show until
Yeah.
curtain call. Like I was like done, but I had to do it. So if that tells you anything about who I was as a kid, I was a fighter. So yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah,
As a kid, that you like, I gotta push through this.
yep,
I was thinking, I'd have been like, my daughter's not going out there. She got strep throat. Y'all need to roll. Y'all need to go.
yeah.
But yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's also informative to know that like that drive. Like, where did that drive come from for you to be like, I gotta go through this. I gotta push through this. Because I mean, like the average kid would probably be like, I don't know. And the parents would be like, you ain't singing tonight. You know what I mean? What
Yeah.
made you push through that even as a kid?
Yeah, I think that when I say like it just kind of has to be in you, like
Yeah,
it's because of stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody
yeah,
can force a child to do those kinds of things. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah,
And I've just always, I don't know, it's just been in me. I think it's a part of the way that God just kind of wired me. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? To I just really love and loved since I was a girl, the craft. You know, and I've always really
mm,
just loved entertaining and taking it very seriously, clearly,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And I think that my parents raised me like, okay, if you're gonna do something, do it. You know what I'm saying?
Got you.
And they were always, what my dad always and my mom would always say was, don't try, do, right?
Don't
And
try
so,
do. Okay.
yeah, and so I definitely internalized that really early on, and I loved it, man. Like honestly, like nobody could pull me off stage. Like it was just something that was in
Okay.
me.
Got you. So what was after the Lion King for you? Like you did the Lion King for how many years?
I did it
How
for a
many?
year and a half.
Okay, for a year and a half. And
Hmm.
then after the Lion King, did you book more shows on Broadway? Or was it like, okay, I'm done with the big city. Let me go back to North Carolina?
Well, so with immediately after my last show in The Lion King, we drove home that night. We drove 9 hours back to North Carolina, took all of our stuff, moved all of our stuff back that night, and I went to school the next day. I was starting middle school, and literally like Sunday night was goodbye Lion King. Monday morning was middle school. So I was still a kid, and I had to go do kid things.
Yeah,
And I did middle school.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but I would still, I was always back and forth on the road. By the time that I left the Lion King, I did now have agents in New York, and they would submit me for, commercials, TV, modeling. So I did some modeling gigs, and did all of that and balanced school and worked hard to have good grades so that my parents wouldn't stop letting me, go do the auditions and everything. But yeah, I kept pursuing it. Started to do some shows again at
Okay.
the theater I grew up at. But yeah, I moved back to North Carolina and, would kind of just songwrite in my bedroom by myself.
So like going out as a young person in the modeling world, what was
Mhm.
that like? Is that something different of, you know, um is modeling for a teenager a bit different from modeling from like of course adults, but just that like print was it print ads? Was it different ads?
Mhm.
Was it local stuff or was it national stuff? Like what was like that for you modeling and stuff like that as a kid, as a teenager?
Yeah, I mean, all of it was fun for me. It was always just something I really wanted to do. And I couldn't wait to grow up,
Yeah,
so that I wouldn't have to, be in school. And I always just wanted to do it, all of it full time. From
yeah,
a really early age, God would just give me visions of my life, and some of which I at that by that time had started to see come true, and so
yeah,
I was just always trying to understand, like, what do these visions mean? How do I get to this next thing that I'm seeing, that the Lord is giving me, about what my life can look like. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I never let go of just that love, for all of it.
Yeah. Visions. Like, what was that like? How did you feel about the visions that you were getting from God? Like,
Hmm.
I could tell as a kid that could have been scary. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
what does this mean? What does that mean? How did you process that?
Yeah. So, what's funny, as a little kid, you don't realize that that's, kind of what it is.
Yeah.
You think you're just kind of like, these are my dreams. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
this is,
Yeah.
but like I would see sometimes in dreams or visions, like an adult version of myself doing something, right? Or
Wow.
I would uh and so, when I was a little kid, I literally used to like go outside. I grew up in a cul-de-sac, and I used to go outside every single day after school, in elementary school even, and I would like sing up to the sky and, just hope that like an airplane would hear me singing and like take me, to wherever, I the music was supposed to be heard. It's like I was like 6 years old doing this. And
Wow.
so I think when I was a kid, I never like understood exactly what it was. But I had a very clear vision for my life from early on. And so in coming to my relationship with the Lord, and in submitting my gifts to Him, I've now been given, more understanding of what those visions were, what those desires that He had placed in my heart were. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that they were to glorify Him with my gifts. And the love for it, was really because He loves me. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And wants me to have fun in glorifying Him too. You know what I'm saying? Because He's such a
Yeah.
compassionate, loving Father. So yeah, as a kid, I didn't really know what exactly it was, but I've definitely gotten a lot more understanding of it now.
Did you tell your parents about it? Like, did you tell them like, hey, I'm getting these visions. I don't know what this means. Like, was they helping you cultivate that gift? You know what I'm saying? Because in essence, it's a gift that God is entrusted in with you to like have a vision about your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think that my parents did a really great job of like listening to their kids. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
and me and my siblings, you know what I'm saying? If we said that we wanted to pursue something or we had a really strong passion for it, my parents supported us 100%,
wow,
and they never got in the way, you know, they never
yeah,
got in the way. And really just, my mom always says like, she just listened to who God gave her, you know what I'm saying? In
wow.
us as children, because she always understood it's like these are God's kids. You like to this day she'll say that like you guys are God's kids. Like I'm just supposed to listen to who God put inside of you.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were great.
Did your did your siblings ever start like hating? Like, we got to go back to New York again, Lee? Like, was they upset? Like, you know what I mean? Because I mean that's a lot for your siblings because they're like, we got to travel up here, we got to do that. Was how did that affect your brothers and sisters and stuff like that?
Yeah. I mean, that's their story to tell. That's
Okay,
their experience to tell. But my siblings are my best friends, and
good,
we I love them so much, and we, group chat, FaceTiming like most days of the week. So we're really, really close.
good.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty dope. All right, so you came back from New York to North Carolina, and you are like still doing your thing. You're in your teen years. You're in your years as a teenager, still trying to
Mhm.
figure out life. I know as a teenager, I was trying to figure out life. I was like, what's
Right.
going on with this? What's that? With that? What was like your teenage years going into adulthood, young adulthood? What was that like for you? Like, what was that going and seeing the stuff that your purpose to do?
Hmm.
Like, what was that like? Because sometimes you get those teens that's like very hateful. You get people that's
Hmm.
not like hating on you, and you like, where's this coming from? Like, I don't understand. Was that
Yeah.
like something you dealt with, or was that something different? Like, nah, I was like really people were very much supportive in my town. Like, was it either
Hmm.
or?
Yeah. I mean, I would say it was a mixture,
Okay.
and so, but I have one best friend who has been my best friend, since we were 7. And we really would just hang out with each other. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I I didn't do parties. I didn't do like anything really. Like as a teenager, if I went anywhere, it was like to the theater and then in school or my best friend's house, you know. And so I spent a lot of time by myself as a teenager. I'm the youngest of my three siblings, or of my other two siblings. So, you know,
Yeah.
once they went to college, it was kind of like me and my mom and my best friend. And, you know, I just really leaned into, you know, going home and writing songs after school. Like it was really like I was that focus never left, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that as I got older, it became even more intense. I started to like make timelines. I like used to write out like by this age I'm gonna do this, by this age I'm gonna do this. And I just, you know, I really leaned into to the vision for my life that God had given me. And by the time I was 16, we had started coming down to Atlanta for me to, you know, write and do my own music. Because by that time I decided I wanted to focus on music. So yeah, I was pretty, you know, again, I just kept that focus.
Yeah. Your timeline, like
Mhm.
did God like always everything you wrote down in your timeline, was he always like showing up in those things, or was some delayed, some things was, you know what I'm saying? Like those,
Yeah.
how did you feel about some stuff that was delayed that was in the timeline that you wrote down? Was that, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like what are your thoughts about that? Was it always God was just coming through all the time, or was it more like okay, God, that was a setback, but you still with me? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I definitely I because I wanted to grow up so bad, I think that I was rushing the process. You know what I'm saying? Like I think
Gotcha.
that and I would get down on myself, right? And I'm like, oh, you haven't accomplished this yet. You haven't accomplished this yet.
Yeah.
And you know, God is not a rusher, you know, like
Yeah.
we rush, God
Yeah.
doesn't, you
Yeah.
know, and so that was kind of part of why, you know, around like 2020, 2021, I really started to like second guess. I'm like, wait, have I been tripping this whole
Yeah.
time? Like, am I not, like, have I been misunderstanding like everything that I thought I was seeing, you know,
Yeah.
for my life? And so yeah, so I was rushing when things wouldn't happen when I thought they should in my time. You know, I got really really down on myself, and you know had to learn to have grace for myself, for the process, trust God, trust His timing, and thank God, thank God, so many things didn't happen at the times that I wanted them to because I had so much to learn.
Yeah.
And the main thing I had to learn really was to trust Him, and that the things that He was showing me was to honor Him. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so yeah, it definitely was a journey that I had to figure out how to be okay with the timing of.
Okay, so North, you said earlier you came to Atlanta.
Mhm.
How was that big difference from North Carolina to Atlanta when you came down here?
When I was 16.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was still living in North Carolina, but
Okay.
we would just make that trip.
Yeah.
But that was really the first time that I, you know, started to see, you know, the city. And I had only ever really been exposed to like northern cities prior to. And I just thought Atlanta was so dope, you know.
Yeah.
I always was like, okay, either I'm gonna end up in New York or Atlanta. And didn't know how I would. But yeah, like I loved it. I always just thought Atlanta was so cool.
Was you trying to? Did you have a deal already, or was you trying to like? Were you doing demos and stuff like that?
Yeah, I was doing demos. I did not have a
Okay.
deal. And I was working with some producers and just trying to figure out kind of what the sound would be. I always wanted to do bilingual music. I always wanted to do kind of like a mixture of you know pop R&B with Latin elements in it. That's always been something that I've been trying to figure out, how to kind of you know make that sound and really represent all aspects of myself creatively. So when I was 16, that was really when we started to kind of workshop that sound, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But I was a teenager, you know, and my parents, you know, let me be a teenager. So yeah, so again, that process wasn't rushed. But it was really cool to be able to come down here and really just experiment with sounds for the first time.
Got you. So did with the producers, how did you meet them? Like, was that something that you just like maybe they saw you do something, or
Mhm.
how did you meet the producers that came down there that you came down here to do demos with?
Yeah, so I was working with Ronnie Garrett, and he and my dad actually grew up in Durham, and I was when I was 15 in Durham, North Carolina, and when I was 15, I got like a music production software. I don't even know what kind of software it was. It wasn't Pro Tools or Logic or anything, but it was like one of those like CD softwares.
Gotcha.
And I made a beat on it, and I got like a microphone and recorded a song to it in my closet, and made a demo for myself.
Yeah.
um, and because I also knew I couldn't wait for anybody to write me a song, like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I grew up watching MTV, VH1, behind the scenes, of these artists, and I was like, oh, like I have to learn
Yeah.
how to write songs. I was like,
Yeah.
I have to take this initiative. So I did, and my dad just kind of like sent the demo that I did around to just everybody. They're like, look what my daughter's doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Ronnie was like, yo, bring her to Atlanta, like, let's see if we can do something. So yeah, that was cool.
So okay, what like how did you know to make a beat? Like how did you know to make a beat? Like was it something like just loops you put together, or was it
Mhm.
like you knew how to program production?
I did not know how to program production. I didn't know what I was doing. But I would stop at nothing, and I was like, I have to figure this out. So I took so it was loops,
Okay.
and I made a song where there was loops that came with the software that I got. I wish I
Yeah.
remembered what it was, but
Was this
um,
okay? Let me ask you: was this software a computer or a game? Because I remember having this software for PlayStation. It was called the Music Generator, and they had loops on it, and you can make beats and stuff off of that. But I don't know how people got the music off this. This was like in the
mhm.
late '90s, early 2000s. So I don't know if that was the same program you had, or was it more of like a computer program for you?
Yeah, it was a computer one.
Okay,
It
okay,
was,
okay.
yeah, yeah. But it was cool.
Yeah,
It was my first experience at sounding like me to me.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it was cool.
Did you automatically like, yo, I love my voice, or are you one of those artists that's like, I had to get to love my voice? You know what I'm saying? Like, is that something,
Yeah,
or did you love it immediately? Did you love your voice immediately, or was it something that you had to grow into and grow to love your voice?
yeah, good question. So I always loved singing live, and performing live, but studio recording is a different art,
Yeah,
like literally recording artists, right?
yeah,
Like it's different.
yeah,
And even when you're performing, you have to access different parts of your instrument, of your voice, differently than you do in the studio. So
yeah,
I did have to learn how to sing in the studio. I had to learn how to control my vibrato.
yeah,
I specifically remember when I first came down here working at 16, that I had to learn how to control my vibrato, because when you're singing live, vibrato helps you keep the note. It helps you stay on the correct pitch. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? But it's like when you're in a studio, vibrato can just sound like a mess if you don't control it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, like I had to understand the kind of mechanics of studio recording, and I would say that was definitely a process to figure out my tone, where I kind of wanted to sit in my songs, because that's a whole different thing. You're songwriting, and it sounds one way in here, but then
yeah,
it comes out. It was
yeah.
definitely a process that I embraced because I loved it.
When you was writing your songs as a teenager, did people say this is good? Like you need to do something with this, or was it like a work in progress kind of thing for you
They
as a
did, yeah.
songwriter?
People definitely affirmed me
Wow.
as a teenager in songwriting, and I needed that because I didn't know, right? I was like, am I
Yeah.
tripping? Like, and I remember specifically that first demo that I had made when I was 15. I sent it to my brother, and he was now in college at New York, and he called me and was like, yeah, like this actually sounds like a real song. And I always wanted to make something that sounded like a real song, not like I was trying to make a song.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I was affirmed in songwriting as a teenager. I'm really grateful for that.
Dope. 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 Okay, so after you came to Atlanta, worked on some stuff in Atlanta, and from there, what was the next thing? Was American Idol for you the next thing after that situation, or was it more
No.
singing gigs or more theater?
Yeah. So I graduated high school.
Okay.
I'm still in school. I graduated high school. I actually ended up graduating a year early. So I had a year between high school and college, but I ended up going to college in New
Okay.
York. And I was there. I did my first 2 years of college in New York, and then American Idol was after that. And then I
Got
moved to
you.
Atlanta. Yeah.
What was now coming back to New York as an adult? What was that like for you? Like, was that something different for you, or was that like, the same old as when you was a kid?
Yeah, it was different because now I'm not a kid, right? And my mom isn't here,
Yeah,
to make life a little easier. Um, I there were so many things that I loved about it, and so many things that were just really challenging for me.
yeah,
I think that I really respect and love New York for, just the pace and the fact that it's the New York City of dreams. You know what I'm saying? You're surrounded
yeah,
by people who are like-minded. You're surrounded by people who also are really, pursuing something great for their lives. And so I love that about it. But it was tough. There were some things that, came up that I just kind of didn't know how to navigate, at that age. And, 18, 19, nobody knows anything, but we think we know everything.
yeah.
And yeah, like I had to learn some pretty tough lessons, but grateful for that time in my life too.
Any subway horror stories? Any New York subway horror stories that you can say?
Too many, too many. But the subway is super efficient. I can't even hate on it. But it is what it is.
Okay, so I'll tell you a story. What's up? So
Okay.
I'm from New Jersey originally, right? But
Hmm.
I grew up kind of sheltered. My mom was like, "Okay, you're not going anywhere. You're gonna stay in New Jersey because
Hmm.
I didn't go out." So fast forward. Okay, so a couple years ago, Track Stars. Have you been to the KCAs yet? Kingdom Choice
I have
Awards.
not. No.
You have been nominated though for some stuff. I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh.
Maybe I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm jumping. Maybe I'm seeing a vision. I'm seeing a vision. Okay, so we got nominated for something, and
Okay.
we get on a train, and of course they looking at me, my co-host. They looking at me like, bro, you should know this. You should know where we're going. I said, dude, I don't know where we're going. I only took a PATH train from New Jersey to New York.
Hmm.
So okay, so this fast forward, we get on a train. It's a lot of people on the train. It's kind of like rush hour. It's kind of busy time. This gentleman gets on the train. He's big as crap. He looks like a professional wrestler. He
Okay.
yells at this lady. Now, his yell, he was like maybe 20 feet away from me. His yell was so loud that I felt his rage. I was
No.
like, yeah. And I was like, oh no. When my co-host was like, yo, we gonna have to do something. I was like, I don't know what we're gonna do because this dude was huge. He was
All
like big and
right.
huge.
Like
Next
stay in your
stop,
lane.
yeah. Next stop, everybody clears and gives this dude the cart. Like he has the whole thing to himself. Everybody runs to the next thing and different things like that. And
Yeah.
Lee, I'm gonna tell you, as a city boy from New Jersey, I just said I'm never doing the trains in New York again. So now my
Yeah,
wife
there's
is
definitely
like,
some characters.
yeah. Now my wife is like, hey, let's do this, and I'm like, I don't want to do New York again. Let's just take a Uber wherever we need to go. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I know people have different stories about New York trains and everything, and I understand it. I understand because I was like that traumatized me, Lee.
Yeah.
That
Well, I'm
traumatized
sorry.
me.
I'm glad you made it out. I'm glad you made it out to tell the tale.
So, but yeah, I think sometimes I do. I think you hear all the horror stories and different things, but then you also hear some good stories. Like I know a gentleman who he gets on New York trains and he sells his books, his music, everything faith based, and he gets
Mhm.
good response from it. And I'm like, yo, that's amazing. And I've known him since he was a kid, and then he moved from Georgia to New York, and he has a great ministry doing great things, man. So shout out to him.
Oh, that's
But
dope.
yeah, I was like that trauma. I was like, and they looking at me like, yo, you should be used to this. I'm like, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. All right. So, all right, going from New York, did you while you was in college, did you do any theater in college or anything of that nature while you did it? Or
No,
you
by
just
then I
studying?
was just focused on music. Yeah.
Got you, got you. What did you major in?
So my major was recorded music at Tisch School of the Arts.
Okay.
Yeah, at NYU. And so it was really like a really cool program where it wasn't just performance focused, right?
Yeah.
You also learn music business, history, journalism, music theory, production, songwriting, like all of it. So it really exposed me to a different side of my creative brain,
Yeah.
and really kind of made me realize, okay, I need to be about my business, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was dope.
Did you have you always been like, okay, yes, I'm an artist, but I am about the business. I am about the music business too. Like, are you
Mhm.
like that type of person as well?
I am, yeah. I am. I'm very involved in my business and like
Got
stuff
you.
beyond, beyond the creative aspect of it.
Did that take long for you to realize that, or was that something immediately like you knew, like, hey, if I'm gonna get into music, I know it's the music business. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah. So I would say it was definitely a process, right? Because there's so much to learn.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people tend to kind of stay away from it because it is kind of overwhelming when you go in knowing like nothing, you know.
Yeah.
But the reality is, it's like you have to be a part of it. At least for me, at least I'm
Yeah.
not somebody that I can just you know whatever, the business side of it, because it is the music business. And so it was a process for me to learn things and really tap in. And I think that just came with, some maturity really, and some experiences that like were like, okay, let me like pay attention, and make sure that, I'm taking care of my art, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, so it was a process, but and every day you learn something new, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like every day you learn something new. So I think it's just about being committed to that process of learning
Every
and
day
like
something new.
asking questions,
Yeah.
like asking questions. If you don't know the answer, ask questions, and make sure you have people around you that you can trust, to guide you in the right ways.
Did you have the book, Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business?
I have that book. Yes, I have that book.
Like now, or did you have it back then?
No, I have it now. I don't
Okay.
know. I don't know when I got it. But I mean, when I was in college, they gave us some music books or some business books to have as kind of course material too. But I do have everything you need to know about music business,
That's funny.
among others.
I feel like that's like it's almost like the the Bible for the independent artists. Like almost like that book is that, because so many people, it's been revamped over the years and years. So many people have that book. I mean,
Yeah,
I have it too, but it's just one of those things where every time I hear somebody that's like an artist, very about their business, I always think to myself, I think they got that book.
yeah, yeah. It's a great resource.
Yeah. So okay. So now, after college or during college, did you who made you, what made you, not who, what made you say, what, American Idol, like how did that happen for you? Like was it just a commercial, or like what did you see to make you go, let me go audition for this?
So they actually reached out to me.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, they actually reached out to me, and
wow.
it was one of those things where it's kind of like, why not? I guess,
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's how it came about.
Was you scared? Like was it a scary process, or was you like, I I've auditioned since I was a kid, so look, this is ain't nothing. Like was it that, or was it more like nervous because you see a bunch of people online and you like, well, she sounds talented. He sounds, you know what I mean? Was
Yeah.
like, what was it? What was that like for you?
So what's interesting is, during that time in my life, like I was just kind of like generally scared, like I think that a lot of different things had happened that really just like rocked my sense of like who I knew myself to be, and
Got you.
who I thought I could be. And so I think that honestly, that was one of those things that I did that I would like needed to happen for me to like not shrink into fear. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? Like it was one of
yeah,
those things that I kind of needed to push through, to get to the other side of, other things that I was dealing with in my life at the time. So I'm
got you.
grateful for the experience for sure. Because it, again, it like that fighter in me of like, no, like I gotta do it, that was present during that time as well. So
Got you. So what is something that if somebody came to you and said, hey, I'm thinking about doing kind of a reality show based music show, what were some things that you would inform them about it? Like, even our listeners, somebody watching this will be like, hey, I'm thinking about doing The Voice, I'm thinking about doing this, I'm thinking about doing that. What's some advice would you give to them?
um I would probably say just let Jesus be your validation. Let Jesus validate you,
Wow.
you know. Um go do it, you know what I'm saying? And know who you are and who God has called you to be in this place, right? As in any place, right, that we're called into. But definitely just like know who you are, know your identity in Christ, and stand on that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, because I think so many people get to those things and they like, I am a Christian, but then you start seeing like stuff that's really going to test your faith. Like, honestly, some stuff that you will see in the music industry that will
Mhm.
test your faith in both Christian and non mainstream, that will test
Yeah.
your faith to a point where you're like, oh, I don't know, like, am I supposed to be here, and questioning stuff. And
Yeah.
I think that's good. That's wise advice to somebody that's like, make sure you have Jesus before you come up in these spaces. Like, for real,
Yeah.
for real, for real, for real. So,
Yeah.
like, what happened after American Idol that really pushed you to like, did they offer you deals after that situation, or was it just like back to normal for you? Like, what happened after the whole American Idol situation?
Yeah, so I made it to top 48. So I wasn't in the like deals
Yeah,
portion of the show. But yeah, I went back to North Carolina. I still had another 6 months because I had taken a year off. And I ended up moving to Atlanta. So American Idol aired in like March, April, and I moved to Atlanta in August. And during that time, I was working on some music, and working on figuring out how to really just like, be an artist.
yeah,
And then when I moved to Atlanta, I pretty quickly ended up, meeting some people out here doing music and really songwriting to get my foot in the door. Um, because I wanted to kind of, I didn't know how to move in the city at all. I knew nobody here. Like it was, I was kind of like going to Atlanta.
yeah, yeah,
And so, yeah, I really just, after American Idol, I kind of really just honed in on songwriting and songwriting for different artists and, other genres, and really just kind of expanding my toolkit in that area. Um, yeah, that ultimately ended up leading me to figuring out my own voice as an artist. So it was cool.
how did you sharpen your pen as a songwriter? I'm always like, I don't think people know the power of a songwriter.
Mm.
Like do like how do you get better as a songwriter? Like, what's some tools that can help somebody get better as a songwriter?
Good question. So, I mean, I'm a huge music nerd. Like, I'm like really, I love music. I will sit there and, especially in the past, I used to sit there and just like study, sentence structures and rhyme schemes and, kind of like the rules of cadences. And I would go look at like what were the, top songs at the time, and, study those songs and watch all the interviews of people who wrote the song. And I just was always studying something or someone related to music for honestly most of my life, right? Like even
Mm-hmm.
when I was a little kid, like I wasn't doing anything, I was at the house studying this stuff. And that continued, into my early 20s too. And so I think that just studying other people is a great place to start. The next tool I would say is you should learn how to record yourself. You need to learn Pro Tools or Logic or whatever, right? Because if you're a songwriter and you can't record your own demos, that might be a little tough. You
Yeah,
know what
yeah,
I'm saying? To
yeah,
like be like,
yeah.
oh, I have this song idea. Because really, what people work off is like just sending demos to each other, right? We send files to each other in a text message. And
Wow.
it's like if you're this songwriter, you could have an amazing, gift to songwrite, but part of that is being able to package it as well to kind of get you into more doors. So I would definitely encourage, if you're a songwriter, go ahead and learn how to record yourself and vocal produce and stack vocals, and just so that whenever you do get into the rooms too, you're able to add value in other areas too.
Do you feel like people in the industry respect songwriters more than artists?
Um, I don't know. I don't know that I have an answer to that.
No, no. The reason I'm saying that is because you always hear, like I remember, and I'm just like you. Honestly, I was one of them kids. I love Behind the Music. I love Driven. All
Hmm.
them shows from back in the day, and
Yeah.
you always heard like I use Missy Elliott as an example. When people respected her to the point where she started dictating studio sessions for people, right?
Hmm.
So it'd be like the song. I don't know, you probably have the song. The song "All About the Benjamins" by like
Hmm.
Puff Daddy and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Like she literally dictated how the song was going to go, who's going to write for Puff, who's going to do everything. But that took her time to get to that level
Yeah.
of people trusting her to the point, trusting her pen and her songwriting ability and her vocal production and all that, to
Hmm.
trust her to do something like that. Because it's like, and all the people from the Locks were like, who is this girl? Who is telling us to do this? Like, and
Yeah.
probably looking at Puff at the time, like, why are you telling her to do that? But I
Hmm.
guess he respected her pen so much that she was like, yeah, I could dictate this whole situation, and I'm gonna make it sound fly. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's why I think that's why the question I asked that, because I feel like sometimes, like you're saying, as a songwriter yourself, you don't have to wait for somebody to say, hey, here, Lee, here's a song. You know, you ready to do this? You
Yeah.
want to do this? You could be like, I got 12 of these bad boys ready to go now. What you want?
Right.
What's good?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why I
Yeah.
think that's why I asked that question.
No, I feel you. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a mixture of confidence and evidence,
Got you.
to be able to like go into a room and, kind of, be trusted with that. Right.
Yeah.
It's like, one, being able to have confidence and like sell your ideas, sell yourself,
Yeah.
so much of any industry really is relationship based anyway,
Got you. Got you.
and then also just like, you having proof that you're good at what you do, and there's different metrics to affirm that. But yeah, I would say that it's definitely a combination of confidence and evidence to get you to that space
Yeah.
in a room.
So do you feel like as a songwriter and as somebody who goes into the studio or probably already prepared and stuff like that, do you
Hmm.
feel like, man, I'm like, does songwriting, honestly, here goes, I guess the question is, songwriting sometimes can like try to push you further than what God would make you like, telling, like, if the Lord is like, hey, chill out real quick, chill out. It's a process. Does sometimes being a songwriter be like, I'm here already? Like, what's the process, Lord? What's going on? You know what I'm saying? Like, does your songwriting ability sometimes push you past the point of you trying to move your career further than what God is trying to like have you in a place of just stillness?
Hmm. Really good question. So, I'm very, very intentional about collaborating with the Holy Spirit every single time I write, especially if it's for my stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
There are some songs that come out in 20 minutes. There are some songs that come out in 4 hours. There are some songs
Wow.
that take, some months to kind of get the life experience and maybe even inspiration from a Bible verse or a revelation in prayer, that's required to finish the song that I started, a couple months ago.
Got you.
So that's a really good question because it's a craft and it's a skill, right? Writing a song,
Yeah,
just like singing is, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
And throwing a football, right? It's like you practice and you get good at it and it becomes kind of second nature at some point. But I really do have a lot of reverence for the Lord and the things that He's calling me to do with my music in this season and in my life, just the things that He saved me from, and the ways that I've watched the experiences I've had make sense according to His plan, even when it didn't make sense for mine. So in my songwriting for my music, I never want to get ahead of the Lord. I never want to get ahead of the
Mm,
Holy Spirit, because I take it very, very seriously. And the things that I've been delivered from, I owe it to the Lord to let Him lead me in that, no matter what I think I can do on my own, because I can't do anything on my own. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I had years of like just going in and popping songs out and leaving and session hopping and moving fast. And that was fruitless. And I was suffering and I was miserable. You know what
Oh,
I'm saying?
wow, wow.
And music is something that is a gift from the Lord, that I want to really take care of moving forward. So I'm very I never want to rush the Lord. And I've learned that, I've learned that over the years.
So okay, so now, how was that transition going from like like from more of a mainstream artist to now like God revealing to you, like, was it a revelation for him to say, I want you to do Christian, I want you to do music for me? You know what I mean? I want
Yeah.
you to get into Christian. Was that like a transition for you, a hard transition or easy transition, or was it more like God was just like pruning me, and then one day he was like, I want you to do music for me? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I would say that the period before the revelation he gave me was more difficult than the actual obedience of it once I heard from him in that way.
Got you.
So before, God knows me, right? He knows all of us. And
Yeah,
God knows that my brain is like process wired,
yeah.
right? So God didn't tell me like one day while I was in the middle of like hustling in that way to do music for him. What happened was he uprooted every idol in my life and kind of like pushed me into a season of isolation
Wow.
where I couldn't be distracted by my goals. I couldn't be distracted by friendships or relationships, toxic relationships.
Yeah.
I had to just humble myself to the Lord. And I ended up moving back to North Carolina in 2021 because I was just like, my life was just kind of spinning out of control. And
Wow.
I was, every now and then I would open up my Bible and, I would pray, but I was not submitted to the Lord. I did not understand what relationship with the Lord meant. And so God kind of like just wiped everything out and was like, start over, and that was really, really tough. That was really tough. And I moved back to North Carolina. I got my real estate license. I was like, okay, I'm done. Like, I'm done with everything I've been pursuing. I'm just going to go figure out how to get some peace. And, didn't even listen to music for like almost 2 years.
Oh,
And,
wow.
and really during that time, it was just my world got really quiet. I wasn't going out. I wasn't, I was literally just like at the house, and in my I started to get a rhythm of, waking up and praying, let me go watch this sermon, let me go, figure out what it is to have a relationship with God, because I need God, because I don't know what I'm doing. And so after about almost a 2 year period, I'd say probably a year and a half, and like I said, I had given up music. I wasn't even thinking about it. But I kind of started to feel like a lostness, even though I had found stability in like these other areas, right? Because my life had gotten more quiet. I was,
Yeah.
selling houses,
Yeah.
I just felt there's still an emptiness, even though I was starting to really, figure out like who God is, and figure out who he is, for myself, and not just what people have told me about him. I'm starting to experience these things for myself for the first time. I still had this like kind of lostness,
Oh, wow.
and my dad, I went and I told him about it. He was like, I let you do your process, but I always felt like you gave up on music too abruptly. Like you love it, and like you're not doing anything to exercise the thing that you love and the gift that God gave you in it.
Wow.
And so that kind of planted a seed for me to even think about music again, because I had shut it off. Like I was like, no way. And then probably like 6 months after that conversation with my dad, I was getting ready to move back to Atlanta. And I asked the Lord, and I'm just like I'm weeping. I'm in my bed, the lights are off, like it's late at night, and I'm just like weeping tears of joy for the things that I've experienced the
Wow.
Lord's deliverance from, and just so thankful to him that he healed me and he brought me back to, who I am, and showed me that who I am is in him, and
Yeah.
I'm just like crying. I was like, God, what do you have for me when I move back to Atlanta? Because honestly, I was a little nervous. I was excited, but I was kind of nervous because I was like, I just got good. Like, my mental health is good. Like, I'm stable a little bit, like, what do you have for me? And then when I asked that question out loud, the Holy Spirit redirected me in prayer to instead ask, what do you need from me when I move back to
Oh,
Atlanta?
wow.
And
Wow.
asking in the way of like, how can I thank you for all the things that you've done? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And in a way that I had never heard before, I audibly heard the voice of the Lord right here say music. And I just trembled, right?
Wow.
Because I wasn't looking for that to be the answer. Like I thought, like I said, right? Like with this timeline of what I thought my life was going to be like, certain things happening, other things not happening. I thought that I had misunderstood the assignment. You know what I'm saying? Like I thought
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
not understand the assignment. And so I heard the voice of the Lord say music to me. And it shook me to my core because one, I was like, wait, I I I just heard God. You know what I'm saying? Like I've never experienced that before, and it was undeniable.
Yeah.
And also, I was like, but how? Like how? Like I want to live for you now, God. Like how can I do music for you, right? And about 2 weeks later, I ended up moving. I was now back in Atlanta, and I reconnected with Dre, who I had met from my first couple of years working in Atlanta as a songwriter, and he brought me to CHH events going on in the city,
Yeah.
and I was like exposed to a completely different Atlanta than I had been exposed to my first round,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it started to all make sense very quickly. I was like, oh, God is doing something really, really cool in Christian music. And this is what he's called me to be a part of for him, you know?
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So yeah, that was kind of how that process happened.
So when you go into these events, was you like, what? Like, was these
Yeah,
events shocking to you? Like, was you like, man, what? Like Christian hip hop? Like,
100%. 100%. My mind was blown. I didn't grow up we didn't listen to Christian hip hop. When we listened to, Christian music, it was
yeah,
gospel music.
yeah, yeah,
I had never been exposed to Christian hip hop. I don't think I even knew that Christian R&B was an option. Like I didn't know that like Christian reggaeton was happening. Like, and so and this was top of 2023, and my mind was just blown. You go to these events, they're completely sober events, and people are there turning up in Jesus' name and like really worshiping Jesus in community, and it's safe. And it blew my mind. It blew my mind.
yeah.
Um, and it was really, really exciting and inspiring for me. So yeah, God definitely used a lot of people, specifically in the Atlanta scene, to really, really plant those seeds in me for the way that He wanted to use music.
So what was that first song that you wrote that you recorded as a Christian R&B artist? What was that like for you?
Hmm. Yeah, so it's actually on my EP. It's called "Liberate Me," and it's a bilingual kind of like Latin R&B. I got it off of YouTube, and I recorded myself at my house. Shout out those years of learning how to do my own demos, and I really just was like, okay, God, let's give it a shot. You know,
Yeah.
like let's see what comes out. I didn't have an audience. I had like 28 monthly listeners on Spotify at the time. Nobody was checking for me, so it was really just a cool time to be able to, explore and figure out like, what God wanted to do in and through me
Yeah.
during that time. So it was really pure. I was just like at the house with my dog and, my home recording setup, and I just sat there and I just started writing and experimenting with melodies. And but Liberate Me was the first song that I wrote in like 2 years.
Oh wow. Do
Yeah.
you do you, do you still have that home studio to this day?
Yeah, like I have my equipment. I'm not getting rid of my equipment. But yeah, like a lot of my background vocals, I'll record myself at the house. I'll do like my lead vocals now. I'll go to a studio to just lay the leads. But a lot of the songs that I have out, right now, I did my background vocals myself. So
Yeah.
I have fun with
Wow.
it.
That's dope. That's
Yeah.
dope. Teach me.
Yeah. Teach me.
That record got legs like a marathon runner because
Man,
that joint is like
wings.
going crazy.
Yeah.
Talk about that, man. Talk about like coming up and I think the thing is this. I think the shocking thing about a song like Teach Me is like I think from the culture, not Christian culture, but from the mainstream culture, it's like almost counterculture almost. It's like you like saying something to God, like God, I want to be good to this man that you blessed me with in a
Yeah.
relationship. And it's like how did women respond to that? You know, because of course men gonna be like, yeah, teach her, and it's like
Yeah.
that's ignorance. But from another woman to woman, like single woman, like what's the testimonies been like behind that song?
Man, mind blowing. Like people have told me, a lot of people say, they were on the way to, argue with their man, but then like Teach Me came up on a playlist and, it redirected them to prayer.
Wow.
People, tell me, that they're using that song to pray for their future husband, or, people saying,
Wow.
that they were going through a divorce process. They decided to put a stop on it, or a pause on it because, the song has inspired them. So they're just really unimaginable testimonies through that song, that just like it really makes me emotional because I can't believe that God used me for that. Like I can't, and I always just have to give credit to the Holy Spirit for partnering in prayer with me, to
Yeah.
guide me to because it's a real prayer. Teach Me what came from a real place of prayer, where the Holy Spirit was like, ask for understanding, pray for understanding, because I was praying like, just change this person, like I'm sick of him, and the Holy Spirit was like, ask for understanding, like what y'all both need is understanding. So it's been really, really amazing to see the way that the Lord is using it in people's lives, and I'm just happy to be here, man. But
Was
it's really cool.
was you shocked that God gave you that song? Was you like, you giving me this song like at this moment? Like, was you shocked that those lyrics came? Like, God used you as a vessel for that song?
I think after I saw the response, yeah. But when I wrote it, it was really pure. Like it was a real, Teach Me was one of the songs that got written really quickly. In about 20 minutes, the song was done.
Wow.
And because it just came from a real like outpouring of my heart. And so I think the surprising part has been the way that it's changing other people's lives,
Yeah.
and their relationships, and it's definitely changed my life and my perspective in a lot of ways as well. So it's all just really, really beautiful.
So is any unfortunately, we live in a culture that's like do you any negative feedback from that song? Like anybody like, oh, this is a pick me record, blah blah blah. It's like do you get anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, but I think whenever anybody does anything, and they put it out, there's people who love it and people who
Yeah.
have something else to say about it. I'll say I get a lot more positive than I do negative about
Amen.
it, and it's just a huge blessing. And uh, uh, it, God is doing what God wants to do through it. So the comments, if they're if they're negative, I
Yeah.
definitely try not to harp
Offense.
on it, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So are you when you're because people always say your songs are like their kids. Do you always feel some type of way like these are my kids? Like you talking bad about my kids? Like what are you doing? Like do you always
Yeah.
feel those type of vibes, or is it more like God, this is you? Like this is the work you've given me, so
Yeah.
I'm giving it to you.
Yeah, I would say it's a mixture. It's a mixture, right? Because it is something that is close to your heart, but really, I really just care about the Lord being glorified through my music, and any persecution I get is nothing compared to what Jesus got.
Yeah.
So I just really always have to keep that in mind, and just pray for strength and pray for guidance and wisdom. But but yeah, I mean, I'm an artist, and you always want people to love what you love, but that's not always going to be the case, and you have to be okay with that.
Yeah. Any other songs that you wrote that shocked you that it really did well with people that you was
Yeah.
like, wow, like any of the songs recently, songs that you've written that you released that you
Yeah.
shocked?
I mean, honestly, all of them.
Okay.
I really am very humbled and excited and kind of shocked by the way that so many people have been embracing my music and me really. I always say that my music, it comes from my heart. It's something I've really lived. It's something I'm really going through either in that
Yeah.
moment or have gone through. And it's always just really exciting to see that people take your music and things that you've lived through and then take it into their lives, and they live with it, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
driving in the car, cooking, or their kids are singing along. So it's all really, really exciting, and I'm just so it's so cool. I feel like I've found such a great community, through this music that the Lord has given me. So I'm so blessed, and it's just so cool.
That's dope, man. That is dope.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This has been very
Yeah.
good. Before we go, I'm gonna do my this or that. It's gonna be fun. It's kind of like reminiscing too. Okay, so
Okay.
all right. So remember, this is the only deal is just share God. If you say, hey, both, just share God with somebody this week. You know what I mean? Get show the love
Hmm.
of God. All right, here we go. This or that, the Lee edition. All right, here we go. The Lion King on Broadway or American Idol.
The Lion King.
Okay. Reggaeton or I'm about to jack this up, but Dimbo.
Reggaeton.
Okay. Three Kings Day or Carnival Dominicano.
Uh, s- like Christmas. I would I would choose Christmas
Okay. Okay.
over both.
Okay. Maxwell Street Fish Fry or Cape Fear Barbecue and Chicken.
I'm more a fish girl than
Okay.
barbecue. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Fayetteville State University Broncos or Methodist University Monarchs.
I don't have an allegiance to either. Both.
Okay.
I guess.
Writing lyrics or composing melodies.
Mm. Lyrics.
Okay. Morning devotionals or evening reflections.
Evening reflections.
Okay. Now, this may be a controversy one. I'm just letting you know.
Uh-oh.
Jordan Armstrong or Stevie Rizzo.
Don't make me do this. What? I'm not doing this. Both.
Okay.
Both. I'm a
All right,
huge fan of both of them.
Okay. All right. So
And they're great guys. They're both really just dope people. So
got you. Okay, cool. Just share the gospel with somebody. All right. So teach me or your will.
uh, I have to say your will.
Oh wow. Okay.
Your will
Okay.
is my song. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. And this is the last one. Are you a Christian R&B singer or a singer who happens to be Christian?
Hmm. This is an interesting question. um so genres are always tricky,
Got
right?
you. Yeah.
Because I I just feel like there's so many different ways to exist in a genre
Yeah.
in itself, right?
Yeah.
I would have to say that Christian R&B inspired me to sing again,
Got you. Okay.
and the potential and all the different ways you can show up in the genre uh, brought me back to my voice
Got you.
as a singer. So that's my answer.
Okay.
I don't know how to. Yeah.
Got you. Thank you so much, Lee. I had a blast. I had fun. I loved hearing people's stories. It was very refreshing, and it was very gracious that you showed us your stories. Can you tell everybody your social medias where they can find you and support you, and how to, you know, support what you're doing and everything?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
This was so fun for me too.
Yeah.
But I am on social media at Lily Vasi on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube is Lee Vasi, Facebook Lee Vasi, and then on all streaming platforms, Lee Vasi, Leevasi. So yeah,
Yeah.
I hope y'all love the music. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. No problem at all. Kingdom citizens, thank y'all for watching. Remember, follow us on Kingdom Ox everywhere. And we are out.